Welcome back, folks, to my YouTube channel. This is your host, Bjorn. Today's going to be a bit of a rant here. I wasn't going to do any videos this week, mostly because, well, part of this video will be this photo, which I'm going to kind of do a little advertising here. My family and I went to the U.S. Army Heritage and Education Center over this past weekend, and I did a couple videos of some tanks, some tank obstacle course stuff, and just basically general history stuff of the U.S. Army. And that's why I wasn't going to do videos this week. But Wargaming decided to do something that irritates me very much. I've already vented a bit on the forums about it, but I'm going to go to the next step, and I'm going to do a video about said venting. And I'm going to try to refrain myself from calling them fucking idiots and a few other kind words I have for them. Yeah, kind words. So we're going to move on while I'm doing a video on my week off. Thank you, Wargaming. But I use videos are the best way to really express this. So we're going to start with photograph 1. And I'll pretty much let you people read this on your own. Probably a good moment to pause the video, read this. And now we'll pull up the next one. This one you may have to zoom in for a bit. Essentially, I took what they have posted online and pretty much posted what they have online and just pretty much cut out the photos and chop it down a bit and just, that's what you got. And here we got the last section of it. So all this information has to do with how they decide how they're going to fuck with tanks that people have already purchased for various reasons. Mostly, well, pretty much all the preferred matchmaking tanks. I'm going to get a bit of a tangent here about this. What do you people think? What are you thinking, Wargaming? I'll just start by reading some of this information for myself. Couple little highlights here. I like how they talk about there's a +2, -2 matchmaking starting from mid tiers. So if you're rolling out in the King Tiger, you could find yourself on the top of the list with clumsy Churchills and tiny AMX-12Ts. On the other hand, you have the chances of landing very bottom tier fight, facing the mighty IS-4s and fearsome T-95s. Well, first off, facing a tier T-95, I would be actually at mid-tier. Just saying. IS-4 obviously is a tier 10, which the Cane Tiger is not competitive against the IS-4. Then again, I just also want to fucking throw out there, too, that about 80% of my games, if not more, in my Cane Tiger ends up being fucking bottom tier for my Cane Tiger. So we'll just start there as I'll keep moving on through this. Preferential tier 8 premiums won't encounter opponents higher than tier 9, which should make life easier. Yeah. Well, as it goes on, it says, but the new matchmaker struggles with these machines. It takes more time. Okay, I'm going to scratch my head. Computations for the tool to balance them properly, which extends the queuing time. Okay, I'm going to reiterate that, which extends the queuing time. Interesting. I've never had a problem getting into a match with my Super Pershing. Okay, whatever. We'll just skip that bullshit for now because that's a fucking load of bullshit. Even if it did extend the queuing time by, say, 5 seconds, it'd probably be fucking worth it, considering it takes me 5 minutes to get into a tier 10 match with my M48 Patton, which is a tier 10 tank, and then usually when it ends up in a fucking tier 10 match, it's an all fucking tier 10 match. But we'll skip that part for now, assholes. What happens next match? The matchmaker starts grabbing an excessive number of tier 9 tanks to fill up the team roster for preferential matchmaking premiums. So right there is your problem. Your matchmaking coding. I mean, seriously, okay, I select super what you're telling me here, and I want to understand this full. And if someone from Wargaming would be nice enough to put out a statement putting out that I understand this properly, because I do read English, I select super purging, and the first thing that happens is it looks for tier 9s. But it's a tier 8 tank. So it looks for tier 9s right away, automatically throwing me out of the possibility that I will be top tier. Okay. Well, just making sure I understand that properly. So it becomes deficient. Deficient when it comes to forming teams for tier 10 machines. Okay, if I'm in a tier 10 match, if I'm in a tier 10, i.e. 48 patent, shouldn't the first thing it probably be doing is looking for 3 tier 10s total per side? So that's 6 tier 10s it should start looking for. And then it should look for 5 tier 9s. So step 1 should be pretty easy, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who play tier 10s. I could be mistaken. But then it should look for a total of 10 tier 9s. Okay, we'll just skip that for now. The matchmaker then looks for something else to fill the gaps for tier 9s and look who's here. Hello, tier 8s. Yeah, come here, little fellas. Yeah, whatever kind of bullshit. Maybe you're just trying to make a fucking joke out of it, because essentially it is a fucking joke. I mean, okay, prior to your 357 matchmaker that you have now, I suffered quite often with facing tier 10s. When you introduce the new matchmaker, I still suffer quite often facing tier 10s. Actually, probably more now than I did before. And as you keep making patches and changes to the matchmaker, it seems I suffer more at bottom tier now than I used to ever before, since you introduced said matchmaker at 9.18. But we'll just skip that fact for right now, because we'll just skip a lot of this. The second issue of preferential matchmaking premiums is combat specs. We'll just kind of fucking sake of balance, blah, 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 jerk my dick. So, well, I mean, first off, okay, talking about KV5, let's see, up against a full stack of IS3s, Ferdinands, Persians, and other top tier 8 folks. Yeah, well, by what your matchmaking does, and I just want to throw out there a percentage here shortly. It already faces said vehicles, which Ferdinand has no problem dealing with KV5. IS3 might have some problems dealing KV5. It's dependent upon what's exposed, what's not exposed. Pershing can get a little tricky, because obviously Pershing only has 198 penetration. Then again, you can always dab the skill key, that magical 2 key, to increase your penetration to a tier 9 gun, which then it becomes a lot easier dealing with KV5. But we'll just move on a little bit more. And then add a couple of tier 9s, the equivalent, your chances of surviving aren't that pretty. Well, I mean, tier 8, so let's see, KV5. Okay, right now with KV5's armor, I can dab the 2 key on IS3. I can dab the 2 key on Tiger 2. I can dab the 2 key. Well, I don't even need to dab the 2 key on Ferdinand. Let's just skip the STRV S1, which can pen without dabbing the 2 key. You see where I'm going here, okay? You're just coming up with fucking bullshit to start with. So okay, you got this fix in mind, and essentially the fix is reduce the queuing time and ease the calculations, which essentially you've already thrown out that your matchmaker is designed to grab tier 9s first. We'll skip that part, though, because I guess that makes you feel good. We'll skip that part so that way, no one knows that you wrote this, I guess, or there's some kind of magic here. That everybody will ignore that the first thing the matchmaker does is grab tier 9s. So most likely this means when I'm in a tier 8, the first thing matchmaker does is grab tier 10s. And if I'm in a tier 6, the first thing matchmaker probably does is grab tier 8s. Because most likely you've used the same code through everything. So starting from tier 4 and going all the way up to tier 8, the first thing it's going to do is make you fucking bottom tier every time. That's essentially what you've said. And at worst, what you've said at tier 8 is going to make you bottom tier every time to start with. So they're going to fix the matchmaking queue time and ease the calculations. Well, how are they going to do that? Well, they're going to turn the preferential matchmaking tanks into non-preferential matchmaking tanks by buffing them in certain areas that is just stupid, ridiculous, and doesn't make sense, such as, I don't know, we'll start with KV5 since you've already leaked the KV5. We're going to make, essentially Wargaming's answer is we're going to make the KV5 so that way tier 8s, the tier 8 heavy tanks and most of the tier 8 TDs will still be able to pen it from the front with little trouble. IS-3 and Tiger 2 will actually have to aim for a weak spot, which will still be the R2-D2. We'll just skip that as part of the buff. They're also going to take the tier 6 gun that you get on the T150, which is also shared with the KV8, and we're going to buff it. Okay, if the KV5 and the T150 share the same two guns as their cannons, we're going to buff one, but we're not going to buff the other. But they're the same cannon. Seems legit. And I'll get into that in a bit here. So yeah, that seems to be a perfectly legitimate fix. Of course, they go off about how there's a lot of preferential matchmaking tanks as we speak. What is there? I think there's something like a total of 36 preferential matchmaking tanks. And there's a total of how many tanks in the game? Yeah, there's a lot of preferential. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there playing their preferential matchmaking tanks, although actually I kind of doubt that, and I will get to that later as I start talking about some stuff. But so they're going to do some tweaks and balances to these vehicles that will make absolutely no sense, which I will get into again, as I said again later. So they're gonna try to bring changes to said vehicles without an overall negative impact. Well, okay. First off, Wargaming, you're not exactly notorious for fucking balance. We'll throw that out there. Actually, I can't think of any time that you people ever thought about balance, and suddenly you're thinking about balance, supposedly, i.e. Chrysler K. Or i.e. Scorpion. Well, Scorpion G. So we'll forget about that. They don't want to turn an ambush vehicle or an assault tank into an ambush vehicle, which is pretty much what you're going to do. I'm not sure why you think you won't. But all right, so either bottom line is either we keep said tanks or we can trade them in. Of course, we'll only be able to trade them in for other tanks in the tech trees that are gold value. Hooray, which is fine. I can understand why they could offer up some kind of trade. But then to make the trade, we have to make a surcharge, pay for a surcharge that will not exceed 2,000 gold. So wait a minute here, Wargaming, please. Let me understand this. First off, I paid for said tank. For, i.e., preferential matchmaking. All my preferential matchmakings I have for two reasons. Collector's item, preferential matchmaking. You're going to take away my preferential matchmaking for a vehicle I had paid for, my hard-earned money for, and you're going to make me pay a surcharge to trade it in. Okay. Well, as Claus called it earlier, he called it a Russian trade, and I think I'll stick with Russian trade because that is a great Russian trade. Or I can keep the tank. I'm not even going to get into why I should keep my M10 Panther. That's now going to have to face tier 9s. It's practically a tier 6 tank at tier 7, but we're going to make it somehow so it faces tier 9s. Okay, let's just skip that part. I like the whole small surcharge thing. That's just brilliant. I can't wait to pay for my surcharge. So, I'm going to open up World of Tanks here now. As you can see, there's all my tanks with preferential matchmaking. This here only sees one tier because it's got a little pop gun. It's got less armor than a Matilda. But we're gonna, at some point or other, they're gonna rebalance this. I'm guessing so it can see tier 6 like Matilda does, and Matilda's practically useless at tier 5, and it's completely worthless at tier 6. But let's do that. Here, how about this tank? How about this tank here? I had to earn this one. How much is the silver shaft with oak leaf clusters going to be worth for this tank? Because that's what you're going to give me for earning this tank. Here, I earned this one too. I earned this one when I was like a new player. Did a hell of a lot of XP grinding for it. Worth it. Made a lot of money out of this tank. Quite enjoyed it. I won't be enjoying that probably much longer. Oh, how about Tog? Oh, man. Tier 6 tank. This big-ass Tier 6 tank. I can't wait till it's got to face Tier 8s. Because, it's so mobile. We got Panther M10 here. Pretty much a Tier 7 Panther with some additional armor plating. It's like the front and around the turret here is counted as like 5 millimeters of spaced armor. And then we got the tier 6 gun, and it's actually got a slight nerf in spotting range. I paid like $70 for this tank or something like that. Because I got one of the ultimate kits that came with premium time and gold and the tank and all kinds of parts. And man, I'm so glad I spent that $70. I purchased this tank because it's a collector's item and it has preferred matchmaker. And at some point or another, people plan on taking that away from this tank. Or how about we'll just go with the tier 8s. So this tank here is slow as molasses. And it has pretty good spaced armor on the front hull and on the turret front. The gun is essentially the same as a Pershing, but then the armor here, the rear, it's all thin. It's all paper thin because it's a Pershing behind that spaced armor. Oh, and this thing is slow as shit. If the Pershing's armor doesn't work at fucking tier 10, What makes you think you're going to be able to make this work at tier 10? And it's even fucking slower. So, I mean, thank you, Wargaming. Thanks for fucking me. How about this? Instead of your Russian trade, how about we have American trade? Because this is America, and I speak American. How about you give me my fucking money back? So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this, and there you go. That's my rant. Quite a bit of a tangent, isn't it? See you next time.